Yeah, hi everybody, Adrian here, midday on a Thursday for the Life Mastery Show. And once again, I am traveling, so I am in my car. I've just come off the headland in Lennox Head where I was whale watching and playing a little bit of didgeridoo. So I've just pulled over just on the outskirts of Byron Bay because I'm traveling into Byron. I've got a meeting there in an hour and a half. So the commitment is there to be here every single week. It doesn't matter where I am on the planet. I will be tuning in as much as I can for this midday show on a Thursday for all things life mastery. So if you're tuning in, thank you and welcome to you. So a little bit about the show for anybody that's new on here. If you're not new, you probably know the drill by now. But this is all about helping you, empowering you, getting you going in your life. And what I say is I'm here to help you to get on track or stay on track, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, vocationally, in a relationship, sexually, intimately, whatever's going on for you right now. Let's see if we can't work together to help you to get on track or at least stay on track. And the way to do that is to ask a question about where you are right now in your life. So if there's something going on in your life right now that you want some answers to, I'd say once again to reiterate, I'm not tuning into that psychic space where I'm getting support from the spiritual world. This is about getting some practical questions and practical answers to help you on that journey. So what I do, the life mastery process is about getting you in touch with yourself to make decisions to help you in your life on all those aspects. If you want to go more, you can always go to my website, adrianhanks.com. And if you go to the shop area there are some free resources in there as well to support you and to give you an idea of what else I have to offer. But just for now, let's tune in. Let's see if we got a couple of questions coming in from anybody. And remember, the more specific you are on asking the question, the more specific I can be in trying to get some response to that question. So see if we can steer away from being generic, because a lot about being in one's life mastery, being in control of one's life, is getting clarity. So when I work with my clients, my students, people who are working with me, it's about getting that clarity. It's about bringing in conscious clarity. And a great way to bring more of that into one's life is to get really clear on when one is asking a question. Really good thing to do. Hi Sharon, great to have you on here. So so if you have a question, let's see if we can get some clarity on the question. So rather than saying, will I be in a relationship soon, maybe the question would be, can we work something out about what's stopping me being in a relationship? And we can get quite specific about what's going on for you right now. So please, if you have a question, be specific about it. And I say once again, I'm not tuning into that psychic space. There's plenty of people on the spiritual directory who are doing the downloading through Spirit, and I'm choosing not to do that in terms of the show, this Life Mastery show. Hi Holly, great to have you on here too. Hi and hiya to everybody. It's great to get messages. It makes me feel like I'm not sitting all alone in my car in Byron Bay talking to a screen when I see that there's people on here. Hey Nettie, great to have you on here too. Love to get the communication happening. Love to people saying hi and they're sharing that. So yeah, once again, I'm in Byron Bay. I actually left the Gold Coast at 5:30 this morning to drive to Ballina for a business breakfast with a Byron and Beyond group. So it was a very early start. Had a great business breakfast and then just been to the headlands in Lennox Head to play some didgeridoo, calling up and talking to the whale. So it's been quite a morning already. So hello, I would love to know what else I need to do to drop the physical weight. Is there any allergy or food I need to avoid? Okay, Jessica, the best way to ascertain that is to really look at what you're eating, making a mental note or writing it down for a few days, and tuning in from a kinesiology perspective of testing the allergies around food. But if it's weight loss, there's a couple of things about weight loss. And if you go to my website, adrianhanks.com, you'll see I've got a program on there for losing that body fat. So weight loss and body fat are two different things. Yeah. So if you want to lose body fat, storage of that fat, it's a bit different than the process of weight loss. Because if you do weight loss, you might also lose some muscle loss as well. So let's get specific on the clarity of what you want to do. For me, back in the end of October, beginning of November last year, I was 87 kilos and I was just carrying a little bit of, bit of extra body fat. So I started a process, a 6-week process, and I lost 16 kilos of body fat. Since then, I've put on some body muscle, and I'm currently sitting at about 74 kilos. About 74 kilos, because I've put on some muscle tone in the last few months because I'm building myself up. But a lot of the work is around the emotions, because a lot of body fat is the storage of old emotions. So when we're working through weight loss, a great way to keep it off is to also work on the emotional process as well. So very, very happy with you, Jessica, and anybody else here, to go to my website, book in for a free 30-minute consultation with me to ascertain where you are right now, so that I can get you going on track to get that process happening for you. So a lot of it is on that weight loss. And so it's physical, but it's also a lot of the time emotional as well. And set yourself the target. Where do you want to aim for? How much do you want to physically lose? And I say a great way to do that is not to get on the scales. So leave the scales alone for the time you're doing this. So don't do scales for 6 or 10 weeks. Stay off the scales, but look in the mirror. So stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself, find the courage to look at yourself and say, right, where in my body do I need to lose some weight? Where do I lose it? And what happens with body fat loss? It falls off in the easiest places first. And then it takes a little bit longer to fall off those places that we probably want it from in the first place. So it's a whole body process of getting the image of what you want to look at, and then it's really looking at the diet and the exercise. And it's about looking at the kilojoules, or the energy input going in and the energy input going out. So for instance, if you eat a bar of chocolate and you look at the kilojoules, you work out how many minutes you need to walk to counteract those kilojoules that are being stacked in the body. So there's a certain ratio and measurement one has to work through to do that. Then also look at the emotional process as well. So I hope that helps a bit. Please go to the website, book in for a free 30-minute consultation with me, and that's for anybody else on here, to ascertain where you are right now in your life, to see if I can be there to support you in some way of going forward. But certainly, I say I'm sitting on that about 74 kilos at the moment, feeling absolutely fantastic. I'm walking, I'm running, I'm swimming, I'm really conscious of my diet. I choose to be vegetarian. That's just my choice. I've been for 15 years, leaning more towards a bit of vegan, but I'm also flexible, so flexitarian. And looking at certain things not going into my body because they do bloat me, they do put on fat. So I'm now off gluten, I'm off wheat, because it just makes my belly bloat. So, and I learned that by, tasting things and eating things and watching my body, but also a bit of kinesiology and muscle testing as well to see what suits me and what doesn't. So I hope that helps you, Jessica. It's a little bit long-winded, but I hope you get the picture of what that is. But certainly we can do some work together if you want to do that, to get an image of where you want to be, and then put a time frame in place to get you to that place. Because I'm telling you, when you have the vision of what you want to look like and feel like and walk like and talk like and be like, and you reach it, it's a very special feeling, and I'm in that place right now in terms of that body fat loss. So well done. So Holly, how do you form a better relationship with a boss that is hot and cold? Holly, look, great question. Thank you for that. It would be, how do you communicate? So I want to bring it back to you. I want to bring it back. Yes, we can change other people's behaviors, and we can change other people's hotness and coldness and coolness and the way they are with us. But when I'm doing the conscious communication work with people, the first thing I do is bring it back to the person experiencing what they're experiencing. Where does it trigger you? Where do you react? Where do you project? Where do you judge? Where do you fear? Where do you go into the emotional space with that person? What's happening for you? So that's the first thing to ascertain. What's happening for you in the process? And then we find a process of how to address that and work with that person. And oftentimes, one doesn't even need to go to that person to address the conflict. Because once we address that within ourselves, vibrationally, energetically, we change it with the other person by putting in a few places for ourselves, looking at the reactions, looking at the projections, looking at the fears, looking at the doubts, looking at the energy exchange between us and empowering ourselves a little bit in that space. I respond calmly, which I think she finds frustrating because she wants me to react. So perhaps it's not a reaction she's after, Holly. She might be after a way of communicating from her space. So what I work with people when I'm doing conscious communication is to work out the style of communication the other person requires, and then try and mirror that. So for instance, if she's quite a choleric person, if she's quite fiery, she might respond back to a little bit of fire because that's what she wants to reflect within herself. If she was a calm person, she might then like the calm response. So it's about mirroring and matching and working with the language, the intonation, the words, the feelings, the vibration of the person communicating towards us. It's not always easy to ascertain what that might be. This is only one suggestion. It might be that you actually need a third party to come in and be that third party to broker a conversation between you to find out what the actual issue is between you. But the first thing I would suggest is just take a step back for a moment. And I know, calmness is fantastic, but perhaps it's not the right approach. I'm just, because I don't know the situation, I'm just throwing in a few pointers here. It might be that she's looking for a bit of fire because that's how she loves to operate. So it's about ascertaining what that situation is and the best way to respond to that depending on her nature, the topic of the conversation, and where you're at with this actual person. So it's about ascertaining what that is from the first perspective, getting clear on the situation. Because once you're clear on the situation and what is it she's actually after, what response is she after? She may be after a reaction because maybe she likes to be in that conflict space. And if so, then how do you protect yourself from that conflict? So without knowing too much more about the situation, there's just a few little pointers for you in there. I hope that helps you a little bit. And once again, give me a call, a free 30-minute consultation to ascertain where you are right now. And we can probably go deeper and further into that because you can share the personal story with me a little bit more than you can publicly online as well. So, because remember, people see all this is public. So always be conscious of what you're typing on the screen as well, because this does get shared by, many hundreds of people. So, Nettie, I'm returning to a job where the staff are negative and the bosses are irrational and can be rude to staff. It hasn't been directed at me yet, but I hate seeing others being interested. Need to work on self-value and feel, yeah. Self-value is huge, isn't it? It absolutely is, Nettie. It's and when we go into a workplace, how do we hold ourselves in terms of that self-value? And one of the key words that I use is healthy boundary. And this is getting into the space of response rather than reaction. And I spoke about that just now. What is the response to these people? Because I don't do bullying. I just don't do bullies. I've learned over the years not to do bullies. And if you go to my website, adrianhanks.com, and go to the media page, there's a video on there where I talk about bullying and not engaging with bullies. Because oftentimes in the workplace, because we have that hierarchical structure and people work out of ego and people work out of control, the ego kicks in very quickly. So how do we respond to that? How do we respond to the bullying or the put-downs or the negativity? Well, we hold ourselves in that space and we learn not to react, but to respond to it. And a great way to respond is with clear questions, with clear insights, with clear communication. Asking the person something specifically. And if you can break that down through conscious communication, you can usually get around the workplace. Not maybe with everybody, but with more than general. Because you become the one that's aware of the situation, and you're the one that actually then takes control of the situation in a very conscious way. And when you're aware of that, it's amazing how the vibration and the energy changes around the workplace, around the office, around the people in the staffing. So it's about bringing oneself back to that space, working out, what is the negativity? Can you name it? And if you can name the negativity, and then you can do some better than being generic about it. I was quite negative in the office. What is the negativity? Is it the words, the actions, the deeds? Is it the energy in the building? Does it need some, EMF cards? Maybe there's some, negative electromagnetic frequency going through the building. So get really clear on what that negative energy is, I would suggest, and then what is that irrational behavior, because it may be irrational for you but not for the person behaving in that way, or they may not be seeing the irrational behavior. So how can you learn to point that out to them in a conscious way that's not conflictual, that's not going to cause conflict? So there's lots in there, and without knowing too much about the business or the workplace, I can only give a little bit of a structure around that. But I would say get clear on what the negativity is, what's irrational, how are these people being mistreated? Because if you ask them, maybe they're not feeling that mistreatment, maybe that's your feeling towards that. So the thing is about conscious clarity. Write down the situation, write down the people, write down the irrationality and the negativity, and get clear on where you are in the situation. Put yourself in the middle of the paper, and then start to do a bit of a mud map about what is actually happening. I do this with a lot of people who have workplace issues. We get a piece of paper, we put the person in the middle, and we actually mud map exactly what's going on and get really clear on what's going on in the situation. So that would be my suggestion to start that. And if you want some support, give me a call, book in for that free 30-minute consultation, and I'm certainly happy to support you in that process. So any more questions out there? This is a great. I love getting the questions. It keeps the show alive. It keeps it moving. So if there's any more questions, remember it's about empowering you to take action. It's about empowering you to feel into the situation. I've made it clear from when I started 3 years ago that I do not engage in gossip or bullying. I won't have that in my space. It was my happy place, but hasn't been for a while. Nice. Stuff. Feel mistreated. Yeah, so it's about how do you bring that light back into the space? How can you be the forefront of bringing that into the light? What happens with the office staff? Do you have social meetings? Do you connect with each other? Do you have a gift day? Do you have a meditation day? Can you maybe suggest something for staff development? Do you have staff development in the workplace? If you don't, call me and I'll come in and do something for the whole staff. I love doing staff development work with staff to get the staff on board with each other. It's really great, having game days and connection days and communication days. And if it needs to go deeper, working out what the issues are in the workplace. I love doing that work. It's something I just really enjoy doing, because the harmony that can be created in the workspace, and when you get that change in the workplace and bringing in more harmony, it's a very, very special feeling. And people feel it, but it does take courage to ask for it. So you may have a boss who might be open to that. I don't know who the boss is, but maybe ask, when are we going to do staff development? When are we going to have a staff day? No, the big boss won't do any of that. Well, depends on the business, because most companies, if you look at the stats of good, healthy companies, they know that when you do the staff days and when you do the connection work, the work improves. The staff are happier, which means there's more output in the workplace. Usually profits go up. So there's many, many ways to put that forward. The big boss won't do any of that. It has been suggested. Yeah, so once again, Eddie, it might be the way it's suggested, because he may feel undermined. He may feel that, things are going to be said or done. So without knowing the situation, so I'd suggest, let's have a conversation. Let's have a 30-minute session. Let's work out a strategy for you where we might get him across to change his mind. Because it happened, in our thinking, it's not going to happen. It's not the answer to the solution. What we do, we find a solution to make it happen. And it's about thinking outside the box. Sometimes, how do we think outside the box to get things happening, particularly in a workplace, if it's got a particular way of working? How do we change that structure? Yep, because it's really possible. Seriously, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people over the last 20 years in sticky situations, in challenging situations, and what I love doing is thinking outside the box. How to get things changed, how to move things on. And there's lots of ways, like we could spend the whole, this next 40 minutes discussing. We won't. We can do that a bit more privately, but I'm really happy to help you, because first I need to know what the company is, who the people are, how that's going to work. So I will have to go back and be the village crazy lady again. Yep, absolutely. Sometimes that's the way it works, to be the crazy one. Seriously, Nettie, I tried being normal once. I really did. it was the worst 3 minutes of my life. I just don't do normal. You know, it's about being crazy, it's about being different, and it's about how to do that in the workplace so you still fit into some degree, but you still hold your individuality, which is what I love doing. I love being individual, but I also love the teamwork. I love to be in community. So we have to find a way to communicate and move on and get past the differences and find new ways for community to work in the workplace, in homes, in families, etc., etc. So I hope that helps. And the brightness of mood. And that's oftentimes, if we take that brightness in and we don't let the damp happen, if we don't let that darkness in, other people will pick up on that lightness and other people will join you. You know, one person at a time, one moment at a time. So let's work on that one. I'll be very happy to share some time with you, Neddy, to make that happen for you. So do please go to the website, let's book in a session, and let's see what we can do. And then we can report back on it in a few weeks' time and say, wow, there's been an amazing big change in the workplace from the work we've done. So let's find a strategy forward. So any more questions from anybody on that? So yeah, thanks, Jessica. It's not easy work, seriously. Like when there's a culture, particularly in a workplace or from a person, it's often hard to change the culture. But what we have to do is look at ourselves about the way we're reacting and responding and judging that situation and trying to see it firstly from the other person's perspective, because they might be in fear, they might be in doubt, they might be in victim mode, they might, you know, depending where they are. So we need to ascertain what that is to begin with to see how to approach the situation. So yeah, hi Colin, hi to you too. So any more questions out there? So remember, this is all about empowering you physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, vocationally, sexually, intimately, in relationship, whatever it is you need is to empower you to be in a place. So get specific on your questions, and then I can be a bit more specific in my insight back with you. So I'm in Byron Bay. I'm on the road. I left the Gold Coast at 5:30 this morning. Drove 145 k's down to Ballina. Had a business breakfast with the Byron and Beyond business group at 7:30 till 9. Had a meeting. Went to Lennox Head Headland. Played some dids, watched some whales, and then drove here just on the edge of Byron Bay, ready for midday, for the midday show, because I'm committed to the show. I love supporting people on their journey, and it doesn't matter where I am in the world. I've had this show now from a few different places, North Queensland, here in Byron, even over in Europe, in Belarus a couple of times, and I'll be back over in Belarus again in a few weeks' time. So we'll probably be doing this show either from an airport somewhere or from Belarus in a few weeks' time as well, and then possibly from the UK the week after that if I get to the UK. So so Shelley, I'm really keen to do your 7-week course, but I noticed it's already started. Would I still okay to join? So Shelley, that actually did not happen last week. I had a few people on board and a couple of people couldn't make it, so it has been put back for a couple of weeks. So I'll be putting that out there again to start in a couple of weeks' time. So absolutely, Shelley, let's just text me your number. Just go to Adrian Hanks on Facebook and contact me, because I have put that on postponement for a couple of weeks because there was a few people on there who couldn't make it, and I decided to wait for them and just put the other couple of people on hold. I haven't put that out, I haven't changed that yet, so I will be doing that change, Shelley. So please do PM me and we will get that program going again in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you for that reminder. So anybody else who would like to come aboard and do the 7-week 7 conditions of spiritual development, that was postponed because there were a couple of people on board who wanted to do that, who couldn't, and I had a couple of people, and I want to build the numbers up because it's nice to work with a bigger team of people. So if anybody else wants to join Shelley with that, PM me, send me a message, or go to the website and send me a message from there. Go and look at that website. I will change the date. I haven't got around to it. It's been a hectic traveling week, but we will be starting that in another couple of weeks and doing that 7-week course on the 7 conditions of spiritual development. I've been working that with myself now for over 20 years. It's a great process, and it's a great way to bring more spirituality into one's life in a clear and direct way. So thank you, Shelley, for the reminder of that. There's a bit going on, so it's good to get that out there. So yeah, so if you're interested, just put a yes on here, and I will contact you as well. So yes, I'll go back through this and I can send you a PM and a link to that program. So it's a great program to give you a real good foundation in spiritual work. So okay, no worries, thanks. Thanks so much for all good. I love to respond, and sometimes it's easy to lose the thread, but I'm glad we're back on the thread there, Shelley, as well. So we'll certainly be doing that. Yeah, so Holly is another one. Yes, so let's have a, if we get a few yeses on here, we'll be away. We'll set the date and we'll be up and running and away. But do go and look on my website, adrianhanks.com. Just ignore the date on that because it'll change, and you can actually see what that's about. And I will be contacting you to go forward to do that program, and we can start in a couple of weeks' time. And well done. So look, any more questions in there? Let's get this show rock and rolling. The Life Mastery Show on a Thursday lunchtime from midday to 1 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time, and other times around the planet. We do have people logging in. Devon jumps in here sometimes, all the way from Las Vegas, from America, and he's been on the show a couple of times, and there's been a couple of other people from overseas jumping in. So it's good to see a bit of a global audience. And I always say anything outside of Byron Bay is global anyway, because it's quite a small little community down here. So Gold Coast, Brisbane, other places in Australia, Victoria, WA, we are a connected community right across the planet. So let's keep that Life Mastery global feeling going for us as well, and connecting up as brothers and sisters across the planet, because we are one big spiritual family, really, when it comes down to it. So let's support each other. And how I can support you today is by giving you some responses, some answers, some insights into some of the questions you have about your life. So anything life mastery, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, vocational, sexual, intimate, relationship wise, financial, please just ask the question. I say please try not to be too generic, try to be specific, and I can be specific with you in the answers. So if you have any questions, I'm just going to sit and wait for that for a moment, and take a breather, have a sip of water. And just watch the world go by for a moment. Just a short while ago, I was on the headland in Lennox Head, playing some didgeridoo out into the ocean, and there were quite a few whales out there this morning, breaching and diving around, and coming up and doing some flipper smacks on the water, and it was just wonderful to watch the whales. And there were some young juveniles out there, some big old male and female whales just swimming as they're heading north on their migration. And I just love being on the headland, just playing didge and watching those whales just cruising through, frolicking in the water, having fun. And it's such an amazing feeling. And just to have that between my meetings and other meetings I have this afternoon, just to take some time out for me, just to breathe and to connect with nature, connecting with that whale energy, particularly playing the didge, is such an amazing thing. And with what I teach people in the life mastery process is, what do you actually need in your life? What are you doing in your life? Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, relaxation, meditation, sexually, intimately, vocationally, socially, etc., etc. And are you keeping a log of that? Are you recording that? Are you clear about what you're doing each day? And are you clear of the vibrational level you're living at? And I say to people, if you can try and live in that 80-20 principle or above, that's pretty high energy. Because if we look across the planet, they're living that 80-20 or 90-10 principle. There's not many people in the world doing that. There's a lot of people struggling. A lot of people struggling physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, in relationship, with their health, with addictions, with habits, negative habits. So we all struggle with something. We all are challenged with something. So how do we set the bar for ourselves? How do we set the bar for ourselves to be a better human being? Not necessarily for anybody else, but for ourselves to begin with. And then for others, and then for the planet. But it starts with self. Can I take some time to reflect on who I am right now? And how do I want to change? And I call that the future potential self. Can I get an image of who I am right now and the person I'm aiming to become? Because for me, it's all about growing. It's all about growth. It's all about expansion. And if we can get into that space of expansion and becoming better than each day, and becoming a better person each day, our health improves. Mental health, physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health. Because when we're in alignment with ourselves, when we're in that place of self-love, when we can accept ourselves more fully, the health improves. You know, we see it for those people that can see the outline of the energy field, you know, the aura. It's clearer, it's brighter, it's bigger, it's more vibrant. Otherwise it's patchy and it's got holes in it and it's dull when people struggle, particularly in the emotional space or the mental space or the spiritual space. It's a bit dull, and when you see that, it's a bit saddening, because as human beings we should be connected on this planet with the biggest, brightest auras, the biggest, brightest energy fields. Seriously, should be buzzing with energy. But unfortunately life gets in the way. But what we have to do is take control of that. We have to take responsibility for that. And a great way to do that is just to take some self-reflection and ascertain where one is in life. And to help people with that, I've got a journal that I've developed. It's free on my website. You can download it, adrianhanks.com. Go to the shop and you can download a free journal. And I suggest you do the journaling every evening. Do it for a week and ascertain where you are in each of the 10 aspects of life, and then look at where you need to take your life up a little bit. Maybe it is like the question before, physically I want to lose some weight, or I need to change my diet. It might be emotionally, you might need to do some emotional work to clear some emotions. It might be mental, you need to get more clarity in your mental space. It might be that you need to do some spiritual work to bring yourself into a more of alignment. It might be that you need to do some financial education to bring yourself into alignment more financially. I've been doing that for 12 months. I realized in my self-evaluation that one of the things that was keeping me a bit below par was my relationship to wealth, to money, to abundance. So I've been studying that. I've been doing some education, financial education. I've now got a coach, a financial coach, a multi-millionaire coach. And I'm now part of I'm part of a global portfolio with Skyway Invest Group. And I have myself some IPO pre-equity shares tucked away, ready for receiving some dividends on that when it goes to the public market. But I've been educating myself around that space. I have a portfolio. I've been investing in myself in terms of that financial education. And I've bought some education packages, and now I have a bit of a part of a global portfolio. And it feels wonderful. I feel like I'm slowly understanding where my blockages are around being in that deep wealth, into that abundance of life, being in that multi-millionaire mindset. Because most of it's subconscious thinking. I don't deserve, I don't love myself enough. I have, the wrong values, I have the wrong belief systems. And when we attend to those, we can change the subconscious thinking. So I've been doing that myself. I say I'm part of a global network, and I have a multi-millionaire coach who's been working with me now for 12 months. I've been across to Belarus twice. I'm going again in a few weeks' time. I've been to Kuala Lumpur and sat in a masterclass with this man. I go online and do the trainings, the teachings. I have stacks of material to read through. And it's a wonderful feeling. It's like when I did my body loss, I got a coach. Now I'm doing my financial work, I've got a coach. When I do my emotional work, I get an emotional coach. I actually go to my wife, because she's one of the best therapists on the planet from my perspective, and she takes wifey hat off and she becomes my therapist in my emotional work. I also use a couple of other people in terms of relationship work. Obviously I wouldn't go with her. We've got our own relationship coaches that we work with. A beautiful couple here in Byron Bay who are absolutely amazing in terms of relationship work. So although I do relationship work, when I need it myself, I go to my coach. If I need mental work, I go to my mental coach. I go and talk to, I've got a coach called Andrew, and I call Andrew the fire coach, because he fires me up in terms of my mental business ability. And I've got my mastermind partner, Barry, who I've been masterminding with now for 8 years. So it's about getting the right people on board. And if you feel an affinity to work with me in some space, then please do contact me. Let's have a call. Let's have a half-an-hour consultation to see if we're in alignment to work together. Because it's so important to be on board with the coach, to have a connection, so the coach can push you beyond. Because you need, if you're going to do work, you've got to be pushed beyond the comfort zone. Not to blow people's sockets, but to know how much to take them through the journey. Because if you're not growing with a coach, then the coach is useless. So I only work with coaches who I know are going to challenge me to take me through to the next level. And I'm a hard nut to crack sometimes, I'm telling you. That's my wife. She thinks I'm a pretty hard nut, but she manages to do it because she has the skills to take me through. She pushes me past my own bullshit to get me to crack, to move past where I need to go through my, my belief systems, my stubbornness, all those other things. Yes, I can be stubborn. Those that don't know me, I can be a little bit stubborn, and it takes a certain skill set to get people past that point. It really does. So so let's jump back on board. There's a bit about me, a bit about how I might be able to support you. So let's have a couple of questions. See if anybody else wants to go a bit deeper down the rabbit hole with the questions they've asked, or to ask a new question. Let's get a bit of a thread happening to ask a new question if we can. So anybody left on here, let's get a thread happening to keep this energy flow going on the Life Mastery Show, live from midday on a Thursday on the Spiritual Directory Connection. And Sarah does an amazing job bringing people together to be on these shows. So heads up for Sarah. If you haven't connected with this beautiful lady yet, please do so. She's pretty amazing. We've known each other now for quite a number of years, probably about 6 years or maybe even 7 years now. We've known each other, and yeah, she's doing an amazing job, and it's going to keep growing and growing and growing, this big journey that Sarah's on too. So great to be here to support her, and thanking her for the support to allow me a space on this show too. So thank you, Sarah. So let's have a question, see if we can pop a question up on the screen if you have one. Pretty hot down here in Byron today, pretty humid, so keeping the water intake up. I have my it's in a BPA free bottle, but I do have my own water in my own water machine at home, because I drink 9.5 pH water, so very, very, very alkaline water, because the research I've done shows me that the alkaline water is so much better for my body. So Holly, great question. How do I get more energy in everyday life? So Holly, my first question would be, what do you do every single day? How do you get out of bed in the morning? How do you start your day? Do you start with some meditation, some exercise, some mindset material, some study, with a good healthy breakfast, a good healthy organic smoothie? Or do you take things out of your system that are no longer serving you? To be clear, for me, there's no alcohol, there's no drugs. I don't even do Panadol. Anything that's not good for my body, I try not to put in there. Obviously, occasionally I do a bit of junk food here and there, and have some hot chippies or a bit of chocolate, but most of the time I'm pretty much up there in terms of my 90 or 95% conscious intake in my body, because I don't want to put fuel into this body that negates the energy. I'm a real high energy person. I vibrate at a pretty high level. I go through life at a pretty high level, and I'm able to do that because of the conscious input of my body. So once again, go to that journal, go to my website, adrianhanks.com, download that journal, fill out a page, and ask yourself, how did I live today? What did I do today to be in that high level? Because it's self-responsibility. Being in, so coffee. Yeah, look, I have a coffee, but I have a good organic coffee. Yeah, have a tiny bit of organic honey in it because I like a bit of honey. I have organic soy in it because I don't do dairy, and I have 1 cup. Occasionally I'll have 2 during the day, but not so often. And I sit and I relax with it as much as possible. So even the ingredients for what I have are organic and clean, because they spray coffee beans. If you're drinking coffee that's not organic, you are drinking pesticides and herbicides. And because it's encased in that shell and it's been roasted, and then the milk, if you do dairy, is it organic, is it clean? Otherwise it's full of pesticides and hormones. So it's about being clear and conscious of what goes in the body. That's step 1. Step 2 is, where are you in your healthy boundaries? Are you really clear about the way you communicate with people? And the story I use, and I repeat this over and over and over again, is about the 3 little pigs. The wolf is trying to get in, and the wolf can be a representation of anything negative, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. in relationship people. And the first little pig gets its house blown down and the boundaries get blown down because it's made of straw. The second pig gets the boundaries blown down because it's made of sticks. And then the three pigs come together, body, soul and spirit. That's what they represent. They're in the brick house. They've got the strong boundary and the wolf cannot get in. They burn the wolf up when it tries to get in. So that's a good story to remind us of the strength we need to stay healthy. Are you exercising? Are you walking? Are you meditating? All those things. Are you in a good, healthy relationship? Are you communicating with your partner, your family? Obviously, we all have challenges. I have my own too. But in the main, what are you doing? Where are you taking responsibility for being in your life mastery? That's the question. And the only way you're going to get to answer that is to do a self-evaluation, a serious self-evaluation. And I do have that journal there that can help you with that process. And please do give me a call if you want to do a one-on-one. We'll do a free 30-minute consultation. Book in for a time and we can do something together and find out where the gaps are. Where do you need to get that energy flow going? Yeah, like I love to walk and run. I've in the last few years, probably about 3 years ago, I joined a program called Super Dads, and Jared was on there, and Jared was on the Australian Ninja. So you can imagine how fit that man is. And I started to do some of the exercise with him, and he got me. When I was living in Sydney, I've just moved up here 5 months ago from Sydney. We had an outdoor gym in the local park, and I was down there 3 mornings a week in the gym. And then 2.5 years ago, I started to do some running. I have a good friend in Brisbane who does a run to help support consciousness and awareness around family and domestic violence. And for the last couple of years, I did a 10K run. And then this year I went and did that run and I trained for it. And I managed to do a 23K run. So that's half a marathon. And I feel really good. So now I run a lot. I've trained myself over the last 2 or 3 years to become a runner. Yeah, and that's mindset, because I say I'm not a runner. But now I say I'm a runner. I've run a half a marathon. I can run a half marathon. And now I run 2 or 3 or 4Ks quite easily because I've shed that body fat, so I can run a bit easier, and I've changed my mindset. And I've bought some new runners, and I've got my shorts and my t-shirts, and I've got the running material to make myself feel like a runner. So that's how I stay healthy, is change the mindset, get clear on what you need to change. Yeah, and it's possible. It may not happen overnight, but what you can change overnight is that you can make a start. You can make a list of what needs changing, and then find a coach. For me, yeah, we can go and do this or try to do this by ourselves, but it's almost impossible to break through my belief system around abundance and finance and wealth. I can do bits by myself, but if I'm working with a super coach who challenges me to break through and then supports me in that challenge, it's probably more likely I'm going to get my breakthroughs, like I did with my body fat. I got a coach and he worked with me, taught me about working with kilojoules and understanding it and changing my belief system and challenging me to get my, go and buy new shorts, go and buy a new running shirt, go and buy new runners, become a runner. So it's about starting, let's get started. Make the list and then find somebody that's going to support you and be with you and guide you and challenge you to make the changes. But get an image for yourself, Holly and anybody else listening in. What is the image of that future potential self? And I have a whole process that I help people with to get into that vision of that future potential self. It's quite a process. But right for now, get an image of that. Who do you want to become physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually? And then break through and do it. So Holly's got a message here. I think I might start exercising more as I've become lazy after becoming a mum. Look, I'm really quite brutal sometimes, Holly, when I'm working with coaches and with people in that coaching space, and I say to people, the biggest issue? You're just lazy. And I know it sounds demeaning, but it's the truth. We become lazy. Sometimes I become lazy. Sometimes I go 2 or 3 days when I put, junk into me because I'm too lazy to go and buy something or cook something that's healthy. That's just laziness. There's no excuse. Sometimes I don't go for a run for a few days. That's just laziness. Sometimes I don't study for a few days. It's just laziness. Sometimes, we're just lazy. We get apathetic. We get lazy. And what causes the lazy? It's a bit of a 6-6 situation. We become lazy and we lose the energy. And we lose the energy and become lazy. So we have to find that balance of not being lazy and keeping the energy flow. Because when we have high energy, it's hard to be lazy. but when we don't do the right thing, then we become lazier. So we have to find that balance. So the first thing to do is just step it up 10% or 20%. You know, you don't have to go and do a 20k run overnight. You just start walking around the block. Do it once, and then a few days later do it twice, and then challenge yourself to walk 1k, and then do the maths of how much you need to walk to keep the kilojoules off the body, and then how much you need to start reducing that body fat by holding the kilojoules and finding what ratio. So it's a bit of a mathematical mindset process as well, and also not getting on the scales. That's number one. Don't get on the scales. Just look in the mirror, stand in front of the mirror and say, I want to look a certain way. Because it doesn't matter about the weight, it's how you look that actually feels. So it's about getting that image for yourself. So I hope that helps, Holly, and I hope you do make a start. At least if you want some support with that, please give me a call, and I'm really happy to support you. Because what I say to people, if you're going to work with a coach, and I do not profess to be perfect, but I do profess to walk my talk as much as I can. I still make mistakes, and I try to rectify them. But most of what I offer because I've done it or I'm in it, and I continue to do it because I think that's walking talk coaching. So I have done the weight loss, I am working on the finance, I do the mindset, I do study, I do have coaches myself. Yeah, I think that's really important. Yep, great. I love to inspire. That's the key thing. I love to challenge and to inspire and to guide. So if I've inspired you, Holly, great. Let's get you moving. Let's get you walking around the block. So if you can get a chance, if you're a mum, take the kids for a walk with you. If you've got a pram, I see joggers jogging with a pram. So really there's no excuse for laziness. You have to engage the will. So what we have to do, Holly, and for anybody else listening in, we have to think it, what I want to do. We have to feel it, feel the change, and then we have to act. We think it, we feel it, we do it. We think it, we feel it, we do it. And that's the process. Have the vision, do the planning, and then take the action. So Holly, I'm really pleased I've inspired you, and I look forward to seeing where that inspiration leads to for you. So anybody else want to follow up from that or ask something that's a little bit different? Because what makes this show is you. Because I can talk all day long, but if we want to bring some quality into the show, it's about what you ask in the questions, because you may think you are just asking for yourself. But after working with people for over 25 years in group work, I'm well aware that when one person asks a question, that question is for not just you, it's for others too, who are maybe not able to ask that question for some reason. The blockage, the fear, the doubt, the shyness. So when you find the courage to ask that question, I can guarantee somebody else will be getting some question answered for them when you ask the question. It's amazing. My good friend Barry, he's my mastermind partner. He's currently in America doing some filming for his 2020 Vision documentary, and he went and spent some time with Esther Hicks. So many of you may know about Abraham and Esther Hicks. Unfortunately, Jerry's not with us physically anymore. I'm sure he's still with Esther on a non-physical plane, but Esther and Jerry Hicks did a lot of the work with Abraham. I actually spent the weekend with them on the Gold Coast 10 years ago, and it was a very inspiring weekend working with the Abraham work. But Barry was with Esther just a couple of weeks ago in America with a group of people. Esther was on stage, and as you know, if you know the Abraham work, she downloads the messages when people ask her a question, and she gets it direct through the Abraham energy. And my friend Barry had 7 questions on his piece of paper, of which some of them, or one of them, he was going to ask if he was picked to be in the hot seat to ask the question. But he didn't get in the hot seat. But he came away from that, I think it was 4 hours or 4.5 hours with Esther, with a few hundred people in the room, with every question answered. Because people who were chosen to sit in the hot seat to ask the question did not just represent themselves. They represented other people in the room, because they were the conduit. They were the highest energy, the highest frequency to ask that question. So if you've got a question sitting there, please find the courage to ask it. Because if you can ask that, seriously, the frequency that you're putting out to ask that question will not only guide and help and support you and inspire you, it will do it for others too. So that's what I love about this show. It's, you might think it's an individual answer coming to you, but I know it is not. It's helping others as well. So if you're sitting there, I would urge you not push through that little bit of discomfort and ask a question, because it will be an answer for others too. So I hope that's inspired you to ask questions too. Very, very powerful work. I'll give you a little example. I love telling anecdotal and true stories to help people. I was at a workshop several years ago. It's actually down here in Byron Bay. It's probably about 6 years ago. And we were in the room. There were probably 25 people in the room, maybe 30 people. And we had to write down on a list the top 10 things we love. And I was writing my list, and other people were doing that too. And people were writing down, and we had to read the list out into the group. You know, not everybody, but probably I think 10 or 15 people had to read from their list. What are the 10 top things you love doing? And people were walking, surfing, driving, meditating, relaxing, sleeping. And it got to me, I think I was about the 4th or 5th person to speak. And on the top 3, what do I love? And I said sex. I love sex. And suddenly there was a hush in the room. There was a hush in the room, and the facilitator said, okay, is anybody else in the room who loves sex and did not have that on the top 10? And what was the blockage about putting it on there? And suddenly probably 80% of the people in the room decided that yes, sex was in their top 10 most beautiful things that they love doing. So suddenly their list changed, because I had the courage to speak it, the courage to say it. And it gave people that idea and the insight, well, I'm negating, I'm forgetting, I'm neglecting one of the things I love in my life, which is sexuality, was sex. So if you're speaking, it's great to speak. So Sarah's got a question here. How do you get past depression stage? Okay, Sarah, I work with people with anxiety, depression a lot. I really do. And the key thing to depression is, once again, getting clear on what you're doing in your life right now and what you need to change into life to bring in more connection, more joy, more personal love. What are you not doing in your life? What's causing the depression? Because with depression, there's a cause. Yes, I know there's clinical depression, yep, but for me, clinical depression is quite rare. Usually I call depression a state of the soul, because we're not feeding the soul. The soul is depressed, the soul is not feeling satisfied. And there's many ways to break through depression. And I say to people, let's do a session for a little while, and let you go and buy a canvas, or let's get a bit of clay, or let's get some pen and paper, and I want to do some art therapy with you, and I want to do some work with you. Not to, get rid of the depression for now, but I want you to start being creative on the canvas, or with the clay, or with the pencils, or with the crayons. And I want you to draw the brightest, most imaginable things you do: sunlight and flowers and trees and grass and colours. So no black, no red, no anger colours, no depression colours, just yellows and greens and blues and pinks, and big as you can. And be in that for 10 minutes, and then come out and tell me what your emotional state was, and the depression won't be there, because it's a change of mindset, it's a change of action. Because we often choose to be in that depressive state, and it's hard to get out because we don't have the resources to get out of it. So we have to train ourselves in that moment. We have to find trigger moments to help us to climb back out of it, reminders to climb out of it. So setting a calendar for the day. I'm going to get up and go and have a swim. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do my study. I'm going to have coffee with somebody. So we force ourselves to go and do something different rather than sitting in the depression. And that can be really challenging. So you might need a buddy to help you. You might need a coach to help you, to make those phone calls at 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock to say, right now in my calendar, it says that you should be somewhere at 1 o'clock. Are you there? So it depends on your level of depression, because it can be very minor, very low. It can be very deep and very, very challenging. But depression is something you can work through. It really, truly is. And like I say, I know there's, so-called clinical depression, but I would come back to what's going on in your soul, where you're not feeding your soul. Because oftentimes that's where the depression starts, and then it gets into the mind, and then the mindset, and that's where they call it clinical, because it's already caught up in that subconscious mindset. and that's where it's worked at. But it's about getting into the gut, getting into the soul of what you need to change. So very happy to have a consultation with you. Go to my website, book in for a 30-minute free consultation, Sarah, and I will really happily work with you to ascertain where you are right now with your depression, and let's see if we can do some management around that to remove it or to lessen it. Okay, even lessening is fantastic, but we can remove it, because we all get depressed, we all have down moments, but what are we choosing in the moment to move through that? I get depressed, I get low, but I have strategies in place, I have tools in place, I have people in place to help me to move out of that. So if that's where you're at right now, please, let's get you through this, because depression is not a nice place. It's depleting. The energy flow gets flat. So I really want to help you through this. So Sarah, so please do, go to my website, adrianhakes.com, book in for a session, and let's move through this. And one part of it might be that you don't have a spiritual path right now, because that's one of the biggest causes of depression on the planet, when people are not clear about their spiritual path, because that's the loss of the soul and the spirit. I don't have the connection to spirit. Aboriginal people, when we work with the original people, depression is huge in that culture because their spirit's been cut off by the white man's way. So we have to try and reintroduce the culture to them, to spirituality to them, to get them out of depression. Yeah, so I hope that helps, and please do connect and contact me. I'm just looking at the time, we've got about 3 minutes left of this show. So if you want to go a bit deeper down the rabbit hole with Sarah, please type something in here, or if anybody else has a question to finish the show off, we can certainly do that. We've got a couple of minutes left, then I'm heading off to meet up with somebody in Byron, and I am going to go for a little while to the Byron Sophia group, because I have lectures and talks and presentations there every now and again, and I've presented there a few times, and very philosophical and deep spiritual work. So I'm going to love that this afternoon here in Byron. Love how you're in your car talking. Yep, look, Nikki, I'm totally committed to being on the show at midday every week. So it doesn't matter where I am in the world. I've done the shows from Europe, from northern Queensland, from Byron Bay. Now this is my second time here from home, wherever I am. So I was at a business breakfast in Ballina this morning. I left home at 5:30 from the Gold Coast, and I'd just driving back into Byron for a few hours. And then tonight, I'm in Coolangatta tonight. So if anybody's around the Coolangatta area and you want to get some financial education, I'll be at the Surf Club in Coolangatta, 7 p.m. tonight at Greenmont Surf Club. A free presentation on Skyway Invest Group at 7 p.m. for an hour and a half. And if you want to be around the Surf Club in Coolangatta tonight to come and listen to some financial education to support you in that, I will be there tonight at 7 p.m. So I'll be driving from Byron up to Coolangatta. So anybody on the Gold Coast, Coolangatta area, please come along to the Greenmont Surf Club there in Coolangatta at 7 p.m. tonight upstairs, and come and listen to a presentation on Skyway Invest Group to see how we can help you with financial literacy and some financial freedom. So that's a free presentation. So can you see my relationship current? So Nikki, just be clear, I'm not doing any psychic work today. What I would say to you is get really specific on your question on the relationship. What is it you're really asking? Can you get really specific on your question? Because relationship, do you mean family relationship, lover relationship, married relationship? It's so generic, I can't answer generic questions. So get specific, and I will really be happy to support you in that journey. So are you talking about a sexual partner, a loving intimate partner, your soul partner, your twin flame? What are you actually asking? Because I'd really refrain from generic questions, because it doesn't help you when it's generic, because it doesn't bring in conscious clarity. Because when we're working with this, a lover. Okay, so are you after a lover? Do you have a lover? Would you like a lover? You want a new lover? Okay, so my question would be, have you got an image of who that lover is? Are you really clear on the vision of that lover? Is it a casual lover? Is it a full-time lover? What sort of lover are you after? So get really clear and specific on that, and then put out to the universe of what that lover is. Because the clearer you are, Nikki, in who that lover is and what you want, the more the universe will deliver that lover to you. But you have to get really specific on it. Get really clear on what do you have to ask her. You know, make the wish, make the desire. And if you desire a specific way of being loved, that's what you have to put out for. So you have to be really clear yourself. Because otherwise what happens is the universe will keep sending you a lover, and it'll be the wrong lover because you're not specific. So get really clear on the specificness of who that lover is. What are you after? What sort of lover? You know, you're after lover, or sexual lover, intimate lover, a wild lover, a soft lover, a casual lover, full-time lover. So get really specific, Nikki. And if you want some support on, you know, ascertaining what that is and who that is, you know, once again, give me a call, book in for a free 30-minute consultation with me, and we get really clear on that vision. So I don't know, Nikki, because I say I don't tune into whether it was or whether it wasn't. Be very happy to have a session with you to ascertain how you feel about that and the way he feels about that. And certainly I know with my partner, with Arlene, you know, we've traveled together before in different incarnations, and we went to some very dear special friends of ours who are relationship coaches who work in that space of looking at where the old ties are, where the old blockages are, where the old karmic contracts are that need breaking to move through into new relationship. So my partner, I've done some, you know, karmic release work in terms of old contracts to move into new contracts. So when you're with somebody you believe you've been with before, it can be complicated, because if you're not clear about the new contract, you can get tied up in old contracts and it gets very messy. So if you do believe this is him from way back, I would suggest, you know, if you want to do some work, give me a call, or if it's not with me, I can highly recommend a couple to work with who absolutely do this relationship work with people who want to do that work with, you know, continual partnerships. If it's an old flame from way back in a previous incarnation, that brings complications often. So you know, I'm happy to work in that space with, or I can absolutely highly recommend a couple that my partner and I work with. They're brilliant people. They're down here in Byron Bay, do online work, or you can come and see them. So very happy to pass that information on to you, Nikki, because I'm a bit generic for the show right here now, and this is public, so I don't want to get too open with you, because it is, I want to be private a bit with you. So if that helps, please do contact me directly and I can help you with that one. So look, we are on the hour. It is just after 1. It's 1:03, so we come to the end of the show. So I'm going to send you lots of love and blessings. I really want to thank you for being here. It's you who makes the show. And we'll be tuning again next Thursday. That also will be from Byron Bay, because I'm down here next Wednesday night giving a Skyway or SWIG free presentation at the community centre Wednesday next week, and then I've got a business breakfast Thursday morning, and then I'll be doing this show from Byron Bay live again next Thursday. So please tune in. Please go to my website, adrianhanks.com, book in for that free consultation. Check me out on Facebook, Adrian Hanks. You'll see it there, and you can even friend me, and because it's a business private page, I blend the two up. It's just the way I am. So let's get going. Let's have an amazing life mastery filled life. Talk to you very, very soon. Thanks again. See ya.